Somewhere beneath the dust of modern Pakistan and northwestern India, buried for nearly 4,000 years, lies the ghost of the greatest civilization the ancient world ever produced. No pyramids, no conquering armies, no emperor whose name is carved on every stone. Just cities, perfect, planned, impossibly sophisticated cities, built by a people we still cannot fully understand, speaking a language we still cannot read. This is the story of the Indus Valley civilization, the lost superpower that history forgot to tell you about. And when you hear what they built, you will never look at the ancient world the same way again. Let us begin with scale, because scale is where this story truly begins. At its peak, around 2600 to 1900 BCE, the Indus Valley civilization was the most widespread civilization on Earth. Larger than ancient Egypt, larger than Mesopotamia, covering over 1.5 million square kilometers across what is today Pakistan, northwestern India, and parts of Afghanistan. Over 1,000 settlements have been identified, from the massive city of Mohenjo-daro in the south to Harappa in the north, from the coastal marvel of Dolavira in Gujarat to the trading post of Lothal on the Arabian Sea coast. This was not a collection of scattered villages. This was a civilization of breathtaking ambition and reach. At its height, the Indus Valley may have been home to over 5 million people, a full 10% of the entire world's population at that time. Think about that. 1 in 10 humans alive on Earth in 2500 BCE may have lived under this civilization. And yet, for nearly 4,000 years, it lay buried, silent, forgotten, until a British railway engineer in 1856 noticed that his workers were using unusually old, fire-baked bricks as railway ballast. Bricks that turned out to be 4,000 years old. The greatest civilization of the ancient world had been hiding in plain sight. Now let us walk into the cities themselves, because what the archaeologists found when they excavated Mohenjo-daro and Harappa did not just surprise them, it stunned them. These were not primitive settlements. They were meticulously planned urban masterpieces, laid out on a precise grid system, streets running perfectly north to south, east to west, with a discipline and geometric precision that would not be seen again in the ancient world for another 2,000 years. Mohenjo-daro alone covered an area of over 250 hectares and housed an estimated 40 to 50,000 people. Its streets were wide enough for 2 ox carts to pass each other comfortably. Its buildings were constructed from standardized kiln-fired bricks, every brick made to the same ratio of 1 to 2 to 4. A standardization so precise that it speaks of a central authority with extraordinary organizational power. Every home, from the grandest house to the most modest dwelling, had its own private bathroom. Every home had access to fresh water through a network of public wells. In a world where most people lived in mud huts by rivers, the people of Mohenjo-daro were living in planned urban housing with indoor plumbing. This was not the ancient world we were taught about in school. This was something else entirely. But nothing prepared archaeologists for what lay beneath the streets of these ancient cities. Because beneath the grid of roads, beneath the houses and the markets and the public spaces, the Indus people had built something that would not be seen again for another 3,000 years. They had built the world's first urban sewage and drainage system. Every house was connected to a network of covered drains that ran beneath the main streets. Wastewater from bathrooms and kitchens flowed through clay pipes into these covered main drains, which were large enough for workers to enter and clean. Inspection manholes were placed at regular intervals. Soak pits captured overflow. The entire system operated on gravity. No pumps, no machinery, just perfect engineering and precise calculation of slope and flow. To put this in perspective, the City of London did not have a functional sewage system until 1865. The Indus Valley civilization had one in 2600 BCE. That is a gap of 4,500 years. And the planning did not stop underground. Above the streets, the cities had raised platforms to protect against flooding. Granaries were positioned on high ground, with sophisticated ventilation systems to prevent grain from rotting. Public buildings were separated from residential areas. The entire urban landscape spoke of a civilization that did not just build cities, it designed them. There is a word for this level of civic thinking. We call it modernity. And the Indus Valley people arrived there 4,500 years ago. If Mohenjo-daro is the crown jewel of Indus urban planning, then Dholavira, in what is today the Rann of Kutch in Gujarat, is its greatest engineering achievement. Located on a remote island in a seasonal salt marsh, Dholavira faced one fundamental challenge: water. There were no permanent rivers nearby. Rainfall was seasonal and unpredictable. In a lesser civilization, this location would have been uninhabitable. The Indus people turned it into a masterpiece of water engineering. They built a network of 16 massive stone reservoirs connected by channels that captured every drop of rainwater and every seasonal stream that flowed through the region. The reservoirs were cut directly into the rock, the largest measuring over 70 meters long, 29 meters wide, and 10 meters deep. Enough water to sustain the city through years of drought. The system was so sophisticated, with sluice gates, overflow channels, and a carefully calculated gradient to move water where it was needed, that modern engineers who have studied it describe it as the most advanced ancient water management system ever discovered, anywhere in the world. In 2021, UNESCO recognized Dholavira as a World Heritage Site, nearly 4,000 years after its builders had already proved it worthy of the world's admiration. At the heart of Mohenjo-daro stands one of the most extraordinary structures in all of archaeology. A large, watertight, brick-lined pool, 12 meters long, 7 meters wide, and nearly 3 meters deep, surrounded by a colonnaded walkway and dressing rooms on all sides. Archaeologists call it the Great Bath, and its existence tells us something profound about the people who built it. This was not a private pool for a king. It was a public structure, maintained, it appears, for the use of the community. Whether for ritual purification, religious ceremony, or civic gathering, the Great Bath speaks of a society that valued public life, communal space, and shared institutions. In a world dominated by pharaohs and god-kings who built monuments to themselves, the Indus people built their greatest structures for everyone. No giant statues of rulers have ever been found, no glorified royal tombs, no monuments to conquest, just cities built for people to live well in. And then there is the mystery that still keeps archaeologists awake at night. The Indus people had a writing system. Over 400 distinct symbols have been identified, carved onto small stone seals, pottery, and copper tablets found across thousands of archaeological sites. It is one of the most widespread ancient scripts ever discovered, and no one, despite a century of trying, has been able to read a single word of it. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphics, which were cracked with the help of the Rosetta Stone, the Indus script has no bilingual key. Unlike Mesopotamian cuneiform, which evolved in a traceable line from pictographs, the Indus symbols stand alone, mysterious, consistent, and utterly silent. What were they writing? Trade records? Religious texts? Laws? The names of their cities, their kings, their gods? We do not know. And that silence, 4,000 years of silence, is perhaps the most haunting part of this entire story. Around 1900 BCE, something went wrong. The great cities began to empty. Trade networks collapsed. The standardized bricks gave way to improvised construction. The magnificent drainage systems fell into disrepair. And gradually, over the course of centuries, the Indus Valley civilization simply faded away. For decades, archaeologists speculated about what caused the collapse: invasion, plague, catastrophic flooding. But the latest science tells a different and more sobering story. Climate change killed the Indus Valley civilization. New research published in 2025 confirms that a series of prolonged droughts, one lasting over 100 years, systematically dried up the rivers and monsoon patterns that the cities depended on. The people did not die, they moved. Eastward, toward the Ganges plain, toward Gujarat, toward regions with more reliable water. They adapted, they survived. But the great cities, the grid streets, the drainage systems, the Great Bath, the water forts, were left behind, slowly swallowed by sand and silence, until a railway engineer stumbled upon their bricks 4,000 years later. Here is what I want you to carry with you from this story. The Indus Valley people did not leave behind conquest. They did not leave behind temples to gods who demanded blood, or monuments to kings who demanded worship. They left behind something far more radical. They left behind a vision of what a city should be. Clean water for every home, sewage systems that protected public health, standardized buildings, public spaces for community life. A civilization built not around the power of one person, but around the dignity of all people. That idea that a city exists to serve its people is not a modern idea. It is a 4,500-year-old Indian idea. The Indus Valley civilization did not disappear. It transformed. Its people became the ancestors of the communities of the Indian subcontinent. Its ideas about water, planning, and civic life echoed through the centuries into the great empires that followed. They were not a lost civilization. They were the foundation. And now, finally, the world is beginning to remember them.